right. Hey, everybody. This is Nick Johnson. Thanks for listening. This is our first podcast. Our channel, HomeSnacks, has been growing lately, and we wanted to kind of talk about some of the different things that we've seen and heard from all of you guys and people that haven't seen the channel and some people that have, kind of go over some comments and talk about some other bigger kind of themes. With me right now is Chris Kolmar. He's a co-founder of HomeSnacks, and Paul Cristo, who's the executive producer of the podcast. Hey, guys.
Hey, man.
Hey, Nick.
This is Paul.
This is Chris. Very, very excited to be on your podcast.
It's our podcast.
Our podcast.
Our podcast. So, yeah, thanks, everybody, for all the feedback. We've had a lot of feedback. You know, our channel started off as a sort of a regional infotainment look at what it's like to live in different places in America, where we use statistics to kind of paint a picture of what it's like to live in different cities and different states, kind of in a fun way. As Chris likes to say, you know, the stuff that you would argue with somebody with at a bar. Chris likes to always talk about that kind of stuff. And it's really grown. It's been really popular, and we've had a lot of feedback.
The one comment that I seem to see the most Native American states. I'm curious if you have any ideas as to why you think that is.
I kind of think, and what's interesting is, you know, people make requests all the time, you know, do the most, you know, Asian states, do the fattest states. And you know, it kind of seems like you already would know what the answer would be with Native American states. I could probably name some, but at the same time, I don't know if it's because people don't know or because they just want to be entertained. I'm not sure. What do you think, Chris?
Right.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of fun with doing these demographic-based ones, right? We started off with whitest, which was, you know, it's hard. You can't offend anybody with whitest, or at least we thought we couldn't. And then we got, you know, a lot of requests for all the different races in America, and we've kind of been going one through them. We usually go by the census, and the census defines it as American Indian and Native Alaskan.
Eskimo, I think, is that also?
Yeah.
That might be a bad word. Is that a bad word?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
It could be bad. Any word nowadays is bad.
Yeah, that's trtrue.
Eskimo American? Is that the right way to say it? I don't know.
We may have doubled down just then. I don't know.
I think the appropriate term is Esky is probably what it is. But no, we've had a lot of fun, right? I think we've had a lot of fun. It's actually been pretty interesting. Because we've been we started off with whitest, and we've been doing all like the other races in America, and we actually get a lot of comments that are like, "This is going to be a shit show," right? Like, I have to come back to make sure and let's see all of, like, the bigoted comments. And we've actually, we've done moderation on all of them, but we actually haven't been seeing over the top racism we were kind of expecting to see, which I found kind of reassuring in you guys, right? Like, our watchers aren't as racist as we thought maybe they would be. So that's good.
Well, we do block a lot of keywords in our comments, so.
Is there a way to see which ones have been blocked? Like, maybe we could do a best of racist of Nick's channel.
I think they do. I think there's a bin of moderated or did not make it, and then I can choose to unblock them if we choose. So Native American, we got a lot of Asian comments. So we just published the Hispanic states, and then of course everybody wants to hear the Asian states. I think people just want to be entertained, and they also want to know. I mean, you know, we get a lot of comments that people say, "Oh, I could have guessed all, 8 out of the 10, or I missed one." So I think a lot of times it's pretty obvious what the answer is, but people want the statistics behind and the research behind why the answer is, and I think we do a good job of painting a picture of not only, why a place has the most Hispanic Americans, but a little bit of history and the growth. People want to see which states are growing. And so I think that's part of what it's become. It was supposed to be an entertainment kind of channel, and it's becoming more educational.
Well, right. I mean, I think people really tune in just to hear you sing. I'm pretty sure, based on the comments. That's
I don't know. They used to. I think it's 50-50 on that.
That should have been the intro. We should do a song. Nick, every podcast now, you need to intro us out with a song.
Okay.
So I appreciated from the gayest states, there was a comment from Pearl Beach Wave. Their comment was, "Why are you singing? You seem intelligent." with a dot in between. So I appreciated that one.
That was pretty funny.
So from the gayest video, the comment is from Christopher Hennessy, and it's, "How about states with the ugliest people?" And I thought that was very interesting as just maybe a thought experiment as how you would quantify which state was the ugliest.
Well, Chris is the data guy who can, we actually attempted something similar to this a while ago and we got in a little bit of trouble. And in order to define ugly, we would look up what people think ugly is. And a lot of times weight would come up. So people would say fat people are ugly. So we would throw in, okay, well, where are the fattest states, which you can find out from the CDC in terms of, which people are more overweight. But if you were to actually do a good job, I think you would have to do a thorough poll and ask a lot of people, where do you think the ugliest people live? That would probably be a better way to do it. But, you have to really, I don't know how much it costs to poll 10,000 people or 5,000 people or whatever in order to get that answer. Because a lot of times people will say, well, we would say, the best and worst series that we get in trouble with. Sometimes people will say, well, I love it where I live. I don't care that people are broke and don't have jobs and a lot of people are in jail and there's nothing to do. I love it here. And it's not fair for you to define what good and bad is. Who are you to tell me that where I live is bad?
I would think that if you wanted to sort of do it in tongue-in-cheek, you could say, well, where do most of the pretty movie stars come from? Like, is there any correlation between a state and movie stars, whether they're male or female? Do a lot of successful movie stars come from Kansas? Are there more of those coming from a specific state? And that'd be a fun way to do it, but that wouldn't be necessarily very scientific.
And then we'd have to reverse rank it. So to get the ugliest, we'd have to go to the states that had the least amount of pretty celebrities.
Right.
I guess.
Exactly.
Some fun stuff. But we could do old people are generally uglier, so we could do younger, like the youngest median age. We could do places that get the most plastic surgery, right? Like, because you only get plastic surgery if you're ugly, I'd imagine. Or we could just say every state in the Midwest is ugly and just leave it at that.
Well, if you did it by plastic surgery, that would be which state thinks they're the ugliest state. Right? If they're getting the most plastic surgery, they think they're ugly.
You just got like, we're like digging into people's psychology now. Really, what do these states think of themselves?
This channel has such potential.
Hey, Chris, do you remember when we tried a clickbait thing on Facebook a couple years ago, and the clickbait title was, these are the cities in Pennsylvania with the biggest boobs? And I think in order to do that, didn't we find data on where people had plastic surgery or something? I don't remember how we got it, but it was actually pretty accurate with the data.
I think you used Google Trends to figure out where people were.
Oh yeah, that's right. We looked up Google Trends. So anyway, the article had a lot of clicks and we got yelled at. But I think maybe if we did a Google Trend search on where people are searching for, I'm ugly or how to not be. I don't know what we could come up with some search terms that we would define as what ugly people would search for, and then rank it like that. But then it's not going to be accurate.
What are some criteria of ugly? What do ugly people search for?
We did get in a lot of trouble one time because we did this article on these are the fattest cheerleaders in the SEC, which is the Southeast Conference, and we tried to do a clickbait article. It backfired, and we took it down in like 5 minutes, and we were really sorry that we even did it. But we tried to define where people would be fat by where the most fast food restaurants were and the least number of gyms.
There you go.
So we tried to make an assumption that people in Arkansas might be more fat because there were more fast food restaurants and there were less gyms in wherever the University of Arkansas is, and then ranked the states or the colleges based on that. It was a very, very bad idea, and we felt really bad about it. And that's the kind of trouble you can get in.
I would like to correct for the record that Nick is the one who tried that. It was not a we. It was a Nick Johnson idea.
Yes. No, that was me. And I actually ran that. And we had people that wrote to us and said, this is the most offensive thing I've ever seen. How did this end up in my Facebook feed? I'm going to personally go out of my way to write an email to Facebook to try to get this thing off my how did this even happen? And we were like, okay, we should probably take this down.
So proactive offense to your video. I mean, that takes a lot of energy.
Well, this was before YouTube. This was just a straight website
4 years
blog
ago.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know if most people realize that HomeSnacks is the origin of Nick Johnson. The origin story is actually from the website. No, that's why you see the HomeSnacks stuff plastered on the channel. It's actually the website that came before the channel. And the channel was an offshoot of we were writing a bunch of videos at the time right? You can go back and see like the worst and the redneck, and those were actually the articles that we were writing on the site. And Nick had and I think we had the idea to turn them into videos, and Nick was the one that was able to actually make them fun, right? Like, so I do all the data research stuff, and then Nick makes it something you guys actually want to watch or listen to, right? Like that's his secret sauce. So HomeSnacks that's why you see HomeSnacks on the channel.
Okay, I've got another comment from your gayest video. So it's from Jack O'Malley, and he says, "Do the highest weed states." And I came across like a shit ton of requests for like weed oriented videos, and you usually reply that YouTube doesn't like that kind of thing, and I'm curious, like, what does that mean?
So that's me replying there. Yeah, so we're greedy bastards, and you can't monetize drug content, and so these videos cost us a pretty penny in time. Nick is like getting super rich from doing this all the time, obviously, and so we can't afford to do one that doesn't make money.
Oh,
yeah.
So even if they're like scientifically, even if it's like educational, like anything weed is not
I think if it said
monetizable.
weed, it would immediately get flagged, and then you're fighting an uphill battle where then you get a 25-year-old at YouTube or a 25-year-old in overseas where one person decides the fate of your video. I'm assuming. I don't know, but to put all the work together and put a video out and then have it demonetized. Plus, I think we're worried that YouTube would then have the Eye of Sauron on us. Like, what are you guys doing over there? So we're trying to keep it relatively safe and family friendly if we can.
We did what states have the worst opioid crisis going on right now too, and that got demonetized instantly too. So that's also our one point of data point on that.
They will not let anything slip by the cracks. I guess from the adpocalypse thing that happened a little while ago, they have extreme sensitivity to anything, is what you're saying.
No, and there's even times that a gun will show up in a video in stock footage. There will be a gun, and it will. I don't think YouTube has an audio like they can scrape, or a video monitor, like they can scrape keywords and they can hear words and tell that what you're talking about. I don't know, Chris, how do you think they spotted that random gun that was in that worst countries video? I think it was a clip of Iraq or something.
Yeah, they're super sensitive to that kind of stuff. They have a pretty blanket policy on drugs generally. You can't really, like, you can't even mention them in passing. And then same with like nudity, obviously, and guns. And then now their big thing, right, is all like the hoax stuff that Nick believes, like the flat Earth. Like you can't do any kind of like misinformation.
I don't believe in flat Earth. I believe in the moon is fake. That's my thing.
Oh, got it. I knew it was something. like that.
Well, I would imagine that it's a computer that's seeing the gun. I mean, that's a very distinctive shape, just like boobs are. I'm sure it's very easy for a computer to spot those types of things, and it just automatically flags them.
So for us to go there and, to do weed states and some of the other stuff people want to know, there's just some stuff that, we're not willing to. It would be interesting, and I think it would be entertaining. I just don't know if it's a good idea for us to do that. But we do have a second channel called HomeSnacks Jr, where we've considered doing some of the more controversial stuff.
Yeah, I might bring some stuff over there.
Yeah, so if you're listening, subscribe to not only our channel, but our HomeSnacks Jr channel.
Oh, I wanted to bring this one up too. So in the most Hispanic video you did, Valley Tsunami said, do a video about most haunted U.S. states. And I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if that shows up on the census, but I don't know. That would be kind of a fun video.
I think it would be Massachusetts, wouldn't it, Chris? Do you think?
So there's a database of haunted places in America. I think it's like literally like hauntedplaces.com. So if you Google it, you'll find it. So there's something we could do with that, where we aggregate the most haunted places per capita and maybe give weight to certain types of haunting, right? So I imagine like murders are much worse than like friendly Casper ghosts kind of thing. So we could it's doable. It's in the realm.
Yeah, and so we constantly kind of go back and forth and say, what do people want to hear? And Chris is the analytics guy that he'll say, yes, we should do a video, or no, we shouldn't. And part of it's based on search volume. So if people aren't searching for where a haunted house is, then we won't have as much exposure if we do a video like that. But he tends to know which way we should go when we're going to do different videos.
So Mappy, I would like to bring up Mappy. Mappy is often referred to in the comments as being a fan favorite, I would say. Nick, how did you come up with the Mappy idea?
I think at some point I decided that I needed to have a sidekick to weigh in on some of the data. It gets really data intensive at times, and sometimes it's not always fun to just spout statistics. So I thought that we should have a character that comes in and either corrects me or brings up a new statistic that I hadn't mentioned. And I think Mappy was probably born from my childhood. It's sort of a mix between Globey from Pee Wee Herman and Orko from He-Man. And Mappy is a photoshopped, clip art character that we basically, just pieced together, where he has been, born and now has fans, and people seem to think Mappy should have his own channel at some point.
What's your favorite Mappy costume you've done so far?
Well, in the gayest, Mappy was pretty flamboyant. Mappy has had, funny hats. Mappy's been, when we did the Blackest video, Mappy had a fro, which people said, some people thought I was calling him Nappy with an N, and they were like, "Oh, I like that Nappy guy. He's funny." And I'm like, okay, that's
God.
Maybe we have another character.
Yeah, right.
Mappy had a girlfriend in in a obscure video that not very many people have seen yet, on the best cities or best states to find women, which was going to be called the best states to get laid, but we changed the title because we didn't want YouTube to get mad. I think that title's way better, but Mappy had a girlfriend in that video, and she was pretty cute.
What's her name?
You know what? I don't know. And somebody actually asked me the other day, they were like, "What's Mappy's girlfriend's name?" And then someone said, "What's Mappy's boyfriend's name?" Because Mappy had a friend in the gayest video, and they're like, "Well, what's his name?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, but we should maybe name these people."
I mean, there's all sorts of offensive things we could come up with, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so my personal Mappy story was when I was responding to a comment from the Blackest states. Wonder Boy said, "Please do a video about the states with the highest Asian transgenders in America." And I responded being like, I think that's a little too specific even for Mappy. And at that moment I realized that I am Mappy, that I am the nerdy sidekick that you've always wanted, Nick, based on a globe from your childhood.
Yeah, Chris sent me a text. He's like, "Wait a minute, am I Mappy?" And I spit out my coffee, and I was like, "Look." I held the phone up, and I was like, "Chris thinks he's Mappy." It was like a really funny moment at the house. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's hilarious." Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to throw you under the bus, Nick, but there are a couple that I want you to comment on in terms of people correcting you.
Yeah.
Online. So I think you addressed the Columbus being Italian and not Spanish in the most Hispanic.
Yeah, I screwed that one up, didn't I?
I don't know if we need to go there. But there was one other guy, Brandon Bailey, and I think various other people said the Mississippi flag has 13 stars, not 12. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
When we came up, we had several people that were writing in saying, "You guys need to talk about the different, U.S. state flags and do like a ranking of the flags or somehow, best and worst." So we kind of got together and we made some observations and jokes that we thought were funny, and we kind of put them together. But I had to come up with a way to rank the best and worst, and the best and worst are, America, USA, 50 stars, which states have the most stars or which flags have the most stars. So I spent a lot of time counting all of the different stars on all the flags. And I, at some point realized, wait, some of these flags have stars or suns on them, and a sun is a star. And so I got really, really into actually, but I did miss, there were a couple New Jersey, there were several stars on the New Jersey flag that I didn't see that are buried on a little hat, on a Liberty hat on that one. And then I must have miscounted on the Mississippi flag. I apologize to Mississippi, but I did say that their alternative flag was one of the best flags I've ever seen.
I went over to Nick's house and we were brainstorming jokes for the flags, and the very first flag that comes up is Alabama, right, alphabetically. And I would go encourage everybody to go look at that one right now, either in the video or just Google it. And instantaneously, it's like, oh, X marks the Confederate. It was just it was just glaring us right in the face. And it turns out that you can't make those kinds of jokes on YouTube, apparently. So we had to take it out. But
yeah,
that was a fun memory.
We're not sure why. That video had a lot more pizzazz to it, and we had to cut out a lot of it because it kept getting demonetized. We didn't know if it was for the fact that I said a Confederate joke, or I made a joke about one flag has a lawyer and a minor, but not a kid, because that would be inappropriate or something. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, YouTube has, rules about talking about minors. Maybe I take that joke out. And there was a pot leaf on the California flag. And so we scrubbed all mentions of rednecks and drugs and anything that could be offensive, so that video would not be demonetized. So there's a far better version of that video that maybe we can show somewhere someday.
Paul, as an observer, do you think it's interesting or odd that we make video decisions based on YouTube monetization, or is that kind of assumed by a general YouTube audience?
No, I mean, I think that you have to make money. You have to be able to sustain the channel. And if YouTube is not allowing you to post things on the platform in order to make money, then you have to do what the platform says. Just like any other platform, like HBO or CBS, stuff never gets by the Suits. They can't make any money off of it unless it goes by the Suits. And YouTube is just another version of the Suits. And so it's not. Now, I don't know how that compares to something like real TV, but content creators have been going up against that since they've been creating content ever. So, I mean, I think you have to do it. I mean, you would never have the audience that you have. I mean, the algorithm, it's not just monetization, it's also the algorithm. They put you in in your own little special box when you're doing quote unquote offensive content. So I think you have to, right? I mean, is there a situation where you wouldn't sort of cave to the whims of whatever the YouTube algorithm or YouTube guidelines are giving you?
I think when you're bigger, you can afford to like make a video or two, right? That you just do for purely just because you love to do them, right? And there's some videos like that, right? That like we would want to do, but we can't do just for we're not big enough, right? So when you have an audience or a third party, advertising system where they just don't care, what the content of the video is, they just like you for you. You have kind of that more freedom, but we're not there yet,
right?
Unfortunately.
Even the 600-pound gorilla YouTubers they still complain about YouTube and getting demonetized or the algorithm not treating them the way that they are used to being treated. I even think, I mean, yeah, they might be putting it out there expecting to not be monetized or expecting for it to not get as much exposure on their feeds and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I certainly know of many YouTubers who have their pet projects.
Yeah, like ESPN2 was birthed from the alternative sports that couldn't make the ESPN1, MTV2. I mean, there's got to be a platform for more risque type content. So, I mean, then we're risking having that demonetized, but at least we have a platform to speak our minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could always move to Pornhub.
From Appy to have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, send an email to mappy@homesnacks.net if you have any idea on Mappy's girlfriend's name, and we'll pick the best one.
If you can draw, I say, send in some comics as to what Mappy might do with his girlfriend, like going to the movies or going on a picnic or maybe even any sexual positions that you think that they might partake in.
Yeah, they'd probably enter folding joke in there.
Or imagine scissoring. There's probably some kind of scissoring, right? That's how that would work.
Well, there would, of course, at the end of the session, there'd be this weird, sort of awkward moment where Mappy couldn't fold up his girlfriend.
She goes, yeah.
There's probably a pretty easy way to find like your way, though. I'd imagine to where you need to get to. You know what I mean?
Which would be good. I'm sure Mappy, he's like all other men who doesn't know how females work and their anatomy. So, like, the idea that you'd have a literal roadmap to the right places is a good thing.
Exactly. There you go. All right. I guess two of my personal favorite comments come from the most Hispanic states recently. As everyone who's seen the last several videos know, we've been throwing in some fun names for people. We try and actually find the most common names, and we throw in some fun ones. And for the most Hispanic states, Luis Hernandez pointed out to us, never heard of anyone named Quesadilla before. Sounds cheesy. ... Which I appreciated. I appreciated that one. And then
Thanks,
R. Robinson pointed out that if you put it on half speed during the Alberto's Tacos commercial, you can get 20 seconds of Nick just saying, Alberto! Which I appreciated, and then went and did.
I'm curious, Nick, when you're coming up with the commercials for these places, like, is this just something that you plan on doing, or does it just happen off the top of your head when you're recording, or are these real places?
I don't know. It's just my attempt at trying to be funny. I back in the day when I was in college and after college, I had a television show out in the Southern California area where we would do a lot of satire, and we had a lot of fake commercials that we would do that isn't the most original idea, but we thought was really funny. So from time to time, I think all of us think of something funny that we think should be a product, or something funny that a spoof of a real product. So whenever that kind of comes to mind, I'll try to figure out a way to kind of work it in. We haven't done as many commercials as we used to do, but I think a lot of people are saying that we should do more funny commercials. I think at one point Chris said that the watch time dropped when it got to the fake commercial. Like, people thought it was a real ad, and so I stopped doing that for a while. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah, you were doing, I think Mike's Barbecue, like one of the most famous, one of your more famous ads. Yeah, came in a position on like it was like the most dangerous states or something where people were like, "That's an ad. Why you?" And they were dropping off. But
No. The ad that you said they were dropping on was Phil's Guns. It was the fake gun
that's
store.
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think people either they thought it was really stupid and they were leaving, or they thought it was an ad and they're like, okay, I'm over it. Like I've seen enough of this video, so I kind of stopped doing the commercials because I didn't want people to leave.
What was your one you had for like babysitting or something?
Oh, Kinder, the play date app for kids, where like you want your kid to play with somebody, but you don't know what the other kids are like, so everybody puts their kids on this app, and then everybody can review the other kid. Bites, hits, yells, steals, whatever, or the perfect angels, so that you can swipe left or right, so you know what play date you should have your, invite over to your house. That's actually a thing. I actually Googled that, and somebody, and I did not know that was a thing. I thought of that. We were on a trip at a company that we used to work at, but I actually looked that up, and somebody else either made fun of it or they thought they were going to use that. Like they were like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. So it actually sort of exists somewhere else, but not in the way that we kind of invented.
It's a really good opportunity for merch, if anything. Like I can imagine having an Alberto's T-shirt.
Oh, there you
people
go.
wanting that really badly.
Yeah, well, we tried selling T-shirts many times.
That's a good idea, though.
I sold 0 shirts. Actually, we did sell a few when we had a redneck series where we ranked the most redneck places. And we had, I live in the number 3 redneck place in Virginia. Those sold a little bit, but I think people will only buy a shirt if it mentions their particular city, is what we learned. And I don't have the bandwidth to be able to Photoshop T-shirts for every city.
No, but I think Paul's got an idea here. But I would buy. I bet you someone would buy a Mike's Barbecue T-shirt or a Clippas T-shirt. That could be a thing.
Or you could do like a Mappy Loves Arkansas. Everybody wants it, Nick.
Yeah, well, maybe we do. Maybe Mappy.
Let us know if you want a Mappy T-shirt.
I would die one day if I was walking around some random place and someone had a Mappy T-shirt on. I would be like, oh my god, only 33 people bought a Mappy shirt. What are the odds?
I like the idea that you would know offhand how many Mappy T-shirts had been sold.
Oh yeah.
So we have an idea for like talking about some of like the type of articles we've done in the past and our personal favorites. So for example, we've done the worst places to live in America, and basically every time we do it based on data, people are like, you have to come here to experience it to know that it's not the worst place, right? So we were thinking today we could just talk about our own personal worst places to live in America. And just kind of the reasons behind why we think those. So places we've actually been that you couldn't pay us to go back to again.
Yeah, we get a lot of comments from people.
So the nice thing about places and states is they don't have standing, so you can make fun of them as much as you want and they can't sue you. So as long as we just make fun of states, we're good to go. That's the key.
Okay. Well, so I think, Chris, you should go first because you can set the bar as to how disparaging we're allowed to be. And then you'll be the role model for that. So you go first.
So my worst state in America by far is Colorado.
What?
So
Colorado?
100%. Yeah, 100% the worst. So you have to go outside.
It's mostly rock.
Colorado's an awesome state.
No, it's not. You guys are both incorrect.
Well, did you drive through it on your way to like... What happened in Colorado?
So you have to let me... I've been basically to Denver and to Breckenridge. So, 1, it's at altitude. You don't have enough oxygen. Your brain doesn't function properly. Like, basically in the whole state. 2, you have to go outside all the time, and inside is much better than outside. 3, when you fly over it, there's always turbulence because of the Rocky Mountains. And so, when you fly into it and out of it, there's also more turbulence. And I have an ex-girlfriend from there who is awful. So there's that.
I mean, at least it's more liberal, progressive, right? Like it's not like it's a terrible.
It's beautiful.
Like,
I mean,
no. Well, so you can get all of the beauty of the outside inside with air conditioning and heating. So you don't have. There's not cold all the time. There's no snow most of the time in North Carolina. The dream is to be inside at all times.
So your problem with Colorado is not necessarily with the people, except for one specific person. It's the landscape / altitude.
It's mostly the turbulence. Like every time you fly over Colorado, if you look at like turbulence forecast, every time there's just like this giant red blot over the middle of Denver, and it's the worst. So like when you're going, I used to fly cross country for work, and then like every time it's like, God damn it, Colorado's gonna be bumpy. And the altitude. So I get altitude sickness pretty easily. And so like I'm just like constantly lightheaded and nauseous. So it's like right like I'm not nauseous when I fly over it. I'm nauseous when I'm there. It's just and it's cold. And I appreciate the legal weed thing. I'm all for that. But and politics, I'm probably fine with most of the stuff.
So it's because it is the most nauseating state to you.
There you go.
Literally.
Boom. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Across many vectors.
Yeah, and you're like a data nerd. Like usually like everything you base your assumptions on is like data, and then you're like going like on this like tangent about like you hate flying over it. It's funny.
Well, yeah. Do you have any sort of data to back
No,
this
he
up?
doesn't.
Like,
and you know what? He's going to say New Jersey. He's from New Jersey, and he's going to say that's his favorite state because they have good bagels. So, right, Chris?
You literally just took the thunder out of my sails.
Okay.
Or
Well, is that where you're going with it?
Out of my sails?
That's not really how sales work.
I was going to say that was exactly and pizza. So it's pizza, New Jersey pizza, bagels, the shore, and the women. That was my New Jersey.
The women. What's so good about New Jersey?
That's what you like about it?
Oh, New Jersey women are the best. They're super opinionated. They're really smart. They tell it how it is. That's how New Jersey works.
I've been to like a lot of states, and I think Ohio is the worst place for me. I spent 5 years in Indiana, which was bad enough, but Indiana's somehow got a little bit of soul to it. Like Ohio is just this gray, dreary no man's land where it feels depressing when you're in it, and I have to drive through it all the time, going back and forth for different reasons. And there's a city called Chillicothe, Ohio, which is in southern Ohio, which is like you pull over and it's just the most depressing, sad place. One of the saddest places I've ever been. There's a lot of drugs, and it's just there's something about Ohio that I just feel that state could just be cut in half and split up into different places and nobody would miss it. But I know there's a lot of people that love Ohio. So sorry, Ohio people. I know that you're very prideful in your state. We went to Cleveland once and it was depressing, and people are like, they're like, oh, you don't like Cleveland? Did you see this part? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And it sucked. And then we left Cleveland to continue our road trip and went through East Cleveland, and we had to pull over to let the dogs go to the bathroom. And I was seriously like, I grew up in middle class, like LA suburb where, I'm not afraid of, quote unquote, rough neighborhoods. They don't intimidate me, but this East Cleveland off ramp, I was like, I might die. Like she was like, get in the car. Like we need to go. And I was like, I know. And I'm usually like, oh, it's fine. Like, no, that was not a fun day driving through that state. And if anybody wants to say, like, you don't really know, I've driven through the northern part, the central, the southern. I drive through it probably 10 times a year going back and forth. I know Ohio pretty well, enough to say that I do not like it.
Do you have any girlfriends that live there or ex-girlfriends?
No, there's no real reason. I didn't know really anything about it until I stumbled through it when I was living in Indiana. And I was like, this is worse than Indiana.
My least favorite state, it's not really the state, it's more the city, and this New York City. The worst thing for me is this weird New York City arrogance.
Yeah.
Of and here's where it manifests itself the most, where you'll be talking to somebody, any other state, even in California and Arizona, even Oklahoma, and you'll run into somebody from New York, and they'll start giving you a story about a place in New York, and they'll be like, yeah, it's at 25th and Lex. And you go down there and they start giving you these like street names that mean nothing to you, but they think that you should know what it is because New York is supposed to be this badass place that everybody should know, like random street addresses in the city. Nowhere else, even in movies, you'll hear people talk about, yeah, we went to this great pizza place on 17th and
17th
whatever.
and 18th.
And we're supposed to
it's always some stupid
yeah, and we're supposed to know what that means. Nobody knows what that means unless you're from New York, but nowhere, like not even in California. You don't hear people talking about like, yeah, it's this place down on Santa Monica and 5th, and you're talking to somebody in Ohio that's never going to go there. It's this weird phenomenon of New Yorkers thinking that we know what the hell they're talking about when they give us a random street address.
Long Island's a dump.
Long Island is a dump?
No, Long Island.
Oh, Long Island.
What about Coney Island?
Coney Island's, it's fun for an hour, and then you're like, all right, I'm going on the Ferris wheel, I ate a hot dog, I'm done.
Yeah, saw poor Dominican kids getting shot with a paintball gun. That's a thing. You can pay like $10 and you can shoot like little like teenage kids with paintball guns on Coney Island. Did you know that?
Do you pay the children or do you pay?
Well, I hope they get some of the money because they get stuck. I mean, you sit there and you just shoot, and they try to avoid it. And I'm like, these poor kids, but it's like, it's kind of fun. I mean, they're like probably 16 years old.
Is that real?
There'll be a link in the description, everybody.
Right. God, that sounds like an Alex Jones like conspiracy theory. There's these kids that you shoot them with paintballs.
Guys, thanks for joining and thanks for listening. And please subscribe to us on YouTube if you have not already. We are on HomeSnacks on YouTube. And hit that notification bell so that you get the alert when we post a new video on what it's like to live in different places across America. Guys, thanks for joining us.
If you like the podcast, please make sure to leave a comment wherever you get your podcast. It really helps out the show. And
if we can get if one person listens to this, Mappy will wear a hat in the next video.
Yes, the first person to comment, Mappy will at you on Twitter. Oh, actually, Mappy does probably need a Twitter also.
All right, thank you.
Guys. Thanks for listening.